Shalom, 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 shalom. Once again, you're not under the sounds of the voice of your brother Tazadaq, coming at you through the spirit. Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shah. I'm beginning all things with Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shah. So I'm gonna start off by saying, first of all, giving all praises to the God of our forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, whose proper name is Yahweh. I'm going to start off by saying this is not legal advice. I do not offer legal advice. If you need legal advice, seek yourself a competent counsel, then please be advised. Everything that I'm about to give you is strictly for educational, informational, and entertainment purposes only, not to be misconstrued as legal advice. I suspect that more people would actually tune into this live stream because, believe it or not, people have a tendency to tune into the live streams more when I talk about law, but they don't seem to be interested in the law, statutes, and commandments of our Creator, Yahweh. But it is what it is, I guess, when I do these live streams, it's a price that everyone agree with, free. So I'm going to start this off by saying that most have been given a delusion that because they refuse to accept the truth, they're given a delusion. So most have been given a delusion. Why? Because they refuse to accept the truth. That's the title of this lecture. So I'm calling this most have been given a delusion because they refuse to accept truth. Lawyer deception versus right knowledge. John 8:32. And you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Obviously, it makes many of you very angry and mad before you ever get free. Some of you never get free. So, I know that you think you understand what you thought I said, but I'm not sure you realize that what you heard is what I meant. Most people don't comprehend me. You probably didn't even catch that. So rewind that. I'm gonna rewind it again in your mind right now. I know that you think you understand what you thought I said. That's the problem with many of you. But I'm not sure you realize that what you heard is what I meant. Because many of you, you do not comprehend Tazadaq. I speak to you in parables, just like the Lord spoke to the prophets. So today we're going to talk about law. Since you love law so much, let's discuss law. And we're going to discuss common law. Common law is common to all. It's common sense. So in order to discuss law, we first have to know what law is. What is law? Law is that which is laid down, ordained. And by the way, I'm on YouTube channel, Undaunted National, and I'm on Facebook. To those of you that like to keep your face out of the book, you could go to the YouTube channel, Undaunted National. But if you don't mind putting your face in the book and getting monitored and scan and wide tap like they do Tazadaq, hey, I'm on Facebook too as well. So you could tune into whatever venue. But if you don't want your face in the book, go and check it out on YouTube. So what is law? Law is that which is laid down, ordained. Oh yeah, by the way, y'all, you here. I know you like to keep your face out of the book. So if you're watching, I know you're watching on YouTube. And Jimmy Alicia, I know you like to keep your face out of the book. But even on YouTube, your face is in the book. You like to understand it, believe it or not. You're being monitored. While you're looking through your computer, chances are 99.9% they're looking back at you. So, with that being said, what is law? Law is that which is laid down, ordained, and established. Established by who? Real law is established by Yahweh, which is the common law. When people talk common law, what is the common law? Common law, Tazadaq, where can I find it? The common law is common sense. The common law is the unwritten law. It's what many refer to as the laws of nature. It's common sense. Case in point, let me give you some common law. Exodus 21:25, barn for barn, wound for wound, and bruise for abuse. That's a common law. You do something to someone else, they have a right to do it back to you. That's common law. Leviticus 24:20. Want some more common law? Fracture for fracture, eye for eye, tooth for tooth. Just as he has injured a man, so shall it be inflicted on him. So I'm going to ask you, when a man goes out and he, murders someone, should he be sitting up in prison? Not according to the common law. See, some of you think you want the common law, but you really don't want the common law, because the common law is much more harsh than the statutory laws from some instance. Let's get some more common law. Book of Deuteronomy 19, verse 21. And thine eyes shall not pity, but life shall go for life. So if someone murders someone according to the laws of the Most High, that you refer to as God, they're supposed to die. They're not supposed to go and sit up in prison for the rest of their lives enjoying 3 hot in a cot, and whatever else they do in that place. So Deuteronomy 19:21, and thine eye shall not pity, but a life shall go for a life, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, hand for a hand, foot for a foot. This is common law, which is common sense. You know not to do certain things because they're supposed to be done right back unto you. Do you understand? That's the common law. Common law is unwritten. If you want to find it written, you got to go and look for the Bible, which is why one of the requirements for every law student used to be to study the Bible. They had to learn the Bible. But now, under this illuministic system, the Bible has actually been extracted. It's been extracted from the educational system. It's been extracted from the workforce, because satanic forces is moving in and taking over everything, these illuministic forces. So that's the common law. So it is common to all, but spiritual wickedness in high places has established a de facto and has put in place colorable laws that are not common. They're colorable laws that are called statutes, that are called rules, that are called regulations, that are called acts, and so on and so forth. It is not law, it is public policy. So these are members of a corporate ward that has established colorable courts, which are also corporations, and they bring you in by means of contracts. They bring you in by means of contracts, and they place you in a corporate ward status. What is your status? Well, I know my status. I'm simply an aggrieved man. I'm a living soul. What is your status? I'm the Asiatic Aboriginal Hebrew Moor and a Mexan on Mu. That's my status. What is your status? What is the judge status when you go into these colorable courts and automatically assume that law is on the table? What is the status of the judge? What is the status of the prosecutor, the prosecutor? These are all members of corporations. And so they bring you in by means of contracts, which is why I said years ago, if there is no contract, there is no case. If they don't have any contract on you, there is no case. You have the contract in some shape, form, or fashion for them to actually be able to bring you in into their courts in a corporate ward status. They have a prosecutor. They often tell you, or you want to go pro se, or if you don't want a public defender, and if you don't want an attorney, they tell you that you're going pro se. And if you go pro se, they bring in a prosecutor, a prosecutor against you to prosecute you, which meaning that you're proceeding as an attorney for the day. That means you know all of their acts, their thousands and millions of codes, their statutes, their rules, their regulations. You know all of them for the day when you go in pro se. So you never want to go in pro se. You always want to go in propria persona, never pro se. So if he's telling you, or you're going pro se, then, hey, you better object. No, I'm just here as intervener, and propria persona, sui juris, but never pro se. Do you understand? Do you understand? So never want to be pro se. So they have a prosecutor that brings you in pro se, and they see you as pro se because you are in a corporate ward status of the state of New York, of the state of New Jersey, of the state of Maryland, of the state of California. See, they should see you in propria persona, but you are not in your proper status, and therefore you are a ward of the state. And the members of the corporations hold you as chattel property, and that's what slavery really is. You say slavery is not legal anymore. You fix your thick black lips and say, Tazadaq, honest Abe freed us. Abraham Lincoln didn't free you, man. He put out what is known as Emancipation Proclamation. When you look up a proclamation is not law. It's that which is proclaimed. So it wasn't a law that brought about your freedom. Emancipation is not freedom. When you look at the etymology of the word emancipate, it simply means to free from your hand, but not necessarily freedom from your direct control. Emancipation is not freedom. That's semantics. Freedom is freedom. See, slavery never ended. Slavery never really ended. Most of you just think it do. You're still a slave. And to all of you so-called white people, you're black slaves. With the institution of the 14th Amendment, they made you black slaves. They don't give a damn about you either. It's all about status. What is your status? And so if you're not on a certain status, they consider you a redneck or white trailer trash. Oh, you know what I'm talking about. You know I'm speaking the truth. So don't get upset, man. Just eat that. So with the 13th Amendment, pertinent parts, it reads, slavery has ended except when you break the law. Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for a crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to the jurisdiction thereof. So according to the 13th Amendment, if you break the law, or what they call law, these colorful statutes, acts, codes, rules, regulations, and you're subject to the jurisdiction thereof, let's say, for instance, if you came from Jamaica and you decided to get your nationality, not nationality, because there's a difference between nationality and nationality. See, I'm an American national, but Jamaicans and Trinidadians and people from Honduras and people from Mexico that come here, they are nationalized. I mean, naturalized. They're naturalized, but we're nationalized because we're American nationals, aboriginals. There's a major difference there. You see what I'm saying? So when you make yourself a party to the contract, what they refer to as a constitution, then you become a slave. And that's what slavery really is. According to the 13th Amendment, if you break a crime, then slavery becomes legal. You have no right. So at these times, especially you must be very methodical when searching for the truth. There's so many lies out there. Lies. You got so many people teaching, oh yeah, I'm sovereignty. I can help you get your sovereign. And they file paperwork for you. You go to them for help. You can't reach them anymore. Some of you know what I'm talking about. You made donations to these people, file paperwork with them. Can't find them anymore. Stuff didn't work. You're trying to get back in contact with them. Can't find them. It's not like that with Tazadaq. People that become secure party creditor, I don't teach them in a classroom style, like a college type lecture. No, you're going to learn through experience. You learn through trial and error. Why? Because when you're learning that way, teaching you to be self-sufficient. Because in real truth, only you could save yourself. And in order to save yourself, you got to have right knowledge. You got to have right knowledge, and knowledge is paramount. You got to be able to stand on your own square. And I'm not talking about some foot position. I'm talking about the truth. The truth is the only way to square off all unrighteousness. You know what I'm talking about. Peace, God. You know what I'm talking about. Truth is the only way to square off all unrighteousness. So, this is why you must study. To study is paramount. Truth is paramount because you can easily be misled. So be careful. There's a lot of people out there wearing turbans, calling themselves Moors. They're wearing fezzes. A lot of people dressed in fringes, calling themselves Hebrew Israelites. And they're teaching you bits and pieces of knowledge. But they're not giving you right knowledge, because right knowledge is all right or not right at all. I dare any of you, any single person, to tell me one thing that I told you that was wrong. I dare you, do it right now. Put it in the room right now. Anything that I told you, you've actually been able to go and reference it. I tell you where to go and find it. You go and find it and say, damn, this dude, this son of a gun was telling the truth, because I'm giving you right knowledge. That's what right knowledge is, not watered down. Might hurt you sometime, but hey, that's what it takes. It's tough love. So, the book of Ephesians 5:15, it says, see then that ye walk circumspectively. So you got to be careful of the people that you go to for help. A lot of people, oh yeah, I can make you be a secure party creditor. You make your donation. Some people came to me, Tazadaq, they hustle me. I got to make sure you're not trying to hustle me anyways. So check this out, King. Can't you see in my spirit that I'm not built like that? I'm an honorable man. I'm not going to try to rip you off. I don't care what so-and-so did. You don't judge me by that. You judge me as a man from what you know of me, not based on what someone else has actually done to you. It's a pity that you had to undergo that, but you can't judge me based on your previous experience. So the scriptures say in Ephesians 5:15, see that you walk circumspectively, not as fools. Some of you are fools. You just want to file documents. You don't want to study. You don't want to do the research. So then when you get challenged, you get a commercial presentment. You don't know how to deal with it. Why? Because you're walking as a fool. But the scriptures say, but as wise, because these deceivers will send you back into enslavement. These people with the fezzes, these people with the fringes on. I'm not talking about all of them, but there's a lot of scoffers out there. And so all they want is your fiat. They don't care whether you get this thing right or whatever. But I tell you, you do it this way. You go and read this. You go and read all of my books. You go and get Brian Blum's book. You go and get a Black Law's Fourth earlier. Trying to give you the right things that you need to stand on your square, to stand as a man. It says in the book of Job, show thyself to be a man. I will require it of you. The Most High is going to require it of you. So the mystery of the lawlessness is already at work. All of this lawlessness that's going on, what they're teaching, man, what they're pushing in these court systems, it is not law. These are corporations. When are you people going to realize that? And then you got people that's literally attacking people that's trying to give you this truth and this right knowledge when they should be banging on the beat. Because those people are good puppets. They're programmed. Anyone that comes up against this kind of knowledge, you got to be crazy, man. You got to be crazy to think this is all made up when your life is in shambles, when you're struggling. You talk to the average person, man, they're struggling. Most people live from paycheck to paycheck, struggling, but still don't want to try something different. Isn't that the definition of insanity? Keep trying the same thing over and over and getting the same results and just some false hope that is going to change. That's insane. So the mystery of this lawless system is already at work, and you ought to recognize them by their own activities. The scriptures read in 2 Thessalonians 2:7, for the mystery of iniquity doth already work. Only he that letteth will let until he be taken out of the way. So many of you can laugh, but Hamashiach Yahushua is going to come and take this government out of the way and this wicked rulership out of the way. And then shall that wicked be revealed. So the wicked is actually already being revealed. You got many members of Yasha Allah out there in the streets banging on Ishur, revealing him as the wicked. How is he being revealed? Whom the Lord will consume with the spirit of his mouth. We are the mouth of Yahushua today. His prophets is speaking his word. That's what it's saying about the spirit of his mouth. So when you see all these priests, kahans, and prophets out here banging on Ishur, that is the mouth of burning. That is the mouth. And will destroy with the brightness of his coming. So the book of Matthew in Matthew 22 and 29 says, but Yahweh Shah answered them and said, you are wrong, because you know not the scriptures, nor the power of Yahweh. And that's how it is with many of you. You want to learn the contract stuff, but you don't know the Bible. Don't you understand commerce is spiritual? It's not just about filing documents. If you think that's what that is, family, it's not for you, man. This thing is not for you. It's not all about filing documents, filing forms, and so on and so forth. It's way bigger than that. This is spiritual, man. This whole thing about commerce is spiritual, and the rulers in spiritual wickedness in high places know this, which is why they don't want you sticking your hand in the cookie jar. They don't want you sticking a hand in the cookie jar. You might come out with something you want. Oh, this contract right here it's all falsified. It's not real. It's not really a law. It's colorable. You know what I mean? It resembles law, but it's really not. It's really public policy. So they don't want you getting your hand in the cookie jar. So lawyers are full with deception. Lawyers and attorneys, first thing I'm going to say is this. Lawyers and attorneys, and this is not legal advice, but I don't want you to believe anything that I say. That's the difference between me and them. I want you to go and check it out for yourself. And you're going to find out that it's factual. Lawyers and attorneys are not licensed to practice law. The nature of a lawyer craft in America, as per the United States Supreme Court, says thus: the practice of law cannot be licensed by any state. That's according to the Supreme Court. Showware versus the Board of Examiners, 353 U.S. 238, case law. Go and check it out for yourself. Don't believe me. And now I'm going to give you some more case law about these dirty, grimy lawyers that Yahweh shall warn you about in the scriptures. Woe unto you lawyers. You know the scripture. I'm going to get you some more case law. The practice of law is an occupation of common right. So if this is the case, if the practice of law is an occupation of common right, then any of you could be a lawyer if you wanted to. That's Sims versus Ahems, 271 SW 720. The certificate from the state Supreme Court only authorizes practice of law. Wait. So lawyers get a certificate? It's really not a license to practice law? In court, as a member of the state judicial branch of government, can only represent wards of courts. So you're a ward of the state. That's the only reason that they can represent you. If you're going as a man, an attorney can't represent you. It's saying it right here in the case law. Can only represents ward of the court. Infants, persons of unsound mind. Don't believe me? Go and look in the law encyclopedia. I'll Tazadaq, tell me which volume. Corpus Juris Secunda, volume 7, section 4. Go and check it out for yourself. The only way that a lawyer can represent you is if you're an incompetent ward of the state, which means you're stupid, you're a bird brain. That's how they're looking at you, man. You're a bird brain. They know you're stupid from hiring. I hate to talk to you this way, but this is the only language that you can really understand, man. You're stupid. You're an idiot. You're a bird brain. You're an infant, and you're not of sound mind. It says this in Corpus Juris Secundum. Obviously, it's not using the word bird brain and stupid, but it's calling you incompetent. An infant. What is an infant? An infant is a baby that can't think for themselves. A person of unsound mind. What is a person of unsound mind? That's a damn retard. So they're saying that you're a retard. Go and check it out. Corpus Juris Secundum, volume 7, section 4. So does a lawyer has a license to practice law? I dare any lawyer to get on here right now, rip his damn head off, and I'll rip him apart like Mr. Potato Head. And I'm figuratively speaking, because these bastards, these wicked bastards are trying to charge me with something like that. Saying, oh yeah, well, he said he's going to rip me apart. Well, I'm figuratively speaking, you bastard. So they don't have a license to practice law. This is why they always, many of these people that put these negative comments under my videos, you're damn policemen and you're lawyers, and you hate my guts. Why? For what? Because I tell people the truth. And by me telling people the truth, yo, I'm sticking my hand in your pocket, because the more people that get educated, the less they need you in court. And they know how to deal with your wicked behind on the side of these highways and byways. That's why you don't like me, man. I haven't hurt one single person. I never shot nobody. I never done nothing like that to nobody. I never injured nobody, that didn't deserve it in self-defense. I might have beat the hell out of someone in self-defense, but they deserved it. But, just for me going out being a troublemaker, that's not part of my character. So does these bastards have license to practice law. Well, no, they don't. A certificate is not a license to practice law as an occupation, nor to do business as a law firm. They have certificates. Do you understand? The state bar cards is not a license. I'm going to say that again because you might have missed it. The state bar card is not a license. It is a union's due card. The bar is a professional association, just like the police association, just like the fraternity of firemen, like the actors union, patrons union, or whatever. Those are just like a union. That's all lawyers are. No other associations, even doctors, issues their own license. All are issued by the state. Do you understand? Don't believe me? Go and check it out for yourself and find out everything that I'm telling you is factual. It's true. The state bar is a non-governmental private association. How many of you knew that? It's not government. The state bar is a non-governmental private association and their dues must be current to sustain membership, which means they got to pay their membership dues. Otherwise, hey, you can't be a member of the bar. Do you understand? So the state bar is an unconstitutional monopoly. It makes it an unconstitutional monopoly, an illegal criminal enterprise is what it really is, because they're just extracting fiat from the people. They're injuring the people. How are you injuring them? Financially. It violates Article 2, Section 1, Separation of Powers Clause of the Constitution. Why are they not being charged with that? Why are you not charging them with that? There is no power or authority for joining of legislative, judicial, or executive within a state as the bar is attempting to do. Do you understand? This is why you people got to read the Constitution. The Constitution is not for us. The Constitution was designed to keep them in control, to keep them in order. But you don't read it. I asked you something about the Constitution. You can't tell me. Most of you haven't even picked up the freaking Constitution, man. Most of you not less. Let me ask you, how many books have you read in the last month? And you think yourself to be intelligent? All you doing is you going watching something on YouTube. Now, I know you got to watch YouTube, so you got to watch my videos, but I'm giving you right now. So where do you think I get this from? YouTube? No, I go and read for myself. Book after book after book. How many books have you read over the past month? Don't you know people that's highly successful, they read at least 2 books a month? How many have you read in the past 6 months? Don't answer that. I don't want you to embarrass yourself, especially if you're a so-called melanated person. Not all of you, just 99.9% of you. You don't like to read, man, but reading is fundamental. He said, Tazadaq, that's why I don't like you, how you talk to me. Well, so damn what? What do I care about angering you, man? The only thing I care is about teaching you the truth and making you self-sufficient. So what these people are doing is off. Bar members have invaded all branches of government and are attempting to control the de jure government, and they're doing it as agents of a foreign entity. Do you understand? But you don't have to believe me. Why you think they always turn, well, if you can't afford an attorney, the court will appoint one for you. Then they try and force one on you. Why? Because as soon as you accept an attorney, guess what? You're under the jurisdiction. If you're under the jurisdiction, guess what you become? You become a defendant, and they own you. So it's quite simple to see that a great deception and conspiracy has been perpetuated on the American people. Point blank, period. The American bar is an offshoot from London lawyers, and it was actually established by people with invasive monopolistic, should I say, monopolistic goals in mind. Now, when we go back, you know, man, I'm a historian. I like to study a lot of history. When you go back to and by the way, if you don't like to study history, this thing is not for you. Because you need to know history to know how to link all of this together, which is why I tell you to read so much. But in 1909, they incorporate this Tazadaq group in the state of Illinois and had the state legislature which is actually under the control of lawyers, by the way. The state legislature is under the control of lawyers, passed an unconstitutional law that only members of this powerful union of lawyers called the ABA, American Bar Association, for those of you that don't know, could practice law and hold all key positions in law enforcement and making of the laws. Don't believe me? Please go and check it out for yourself. So at that time, Illinois became an outlaw state, and for all practical purposes, they succeeded from the United States of America. Go and check it out. So the Bar Association, let's talk briefly about that, because some of you, you're so naive. You love, I told my brother, man, why in the hell are you getting a lawyer, man? He ended up paying this lawyer about 15 G's and still lost his house, still paying $2,500 a month in child support. Not listening. Told him, yo, man, I can help you better than any lawyer could actually help you. I'll go in as amicus curiae. I'll go in as amicus curiae, a friend of the court. He didn't want to listen. Gave him all of my books. He didn't read them. Why? Because a Negro don't like to read. So nevertheless, the Bar Association then sent organizers to all other states and explained to the lawyers in these other states how much more profitable and secure it would be for them as lawyers to join the union and be protected by its bylaws and canons. This is what happened. It first started in the state of Illinois. Go and do the research. I heard someone say, when I said in one video, go and do the research. They say I hate when people say go and do the research. What the hell with you then? Don't listen to the damn videos, you damn bird brain, dodo bird. You should be happy to go and do the research. Go and research it, man. Don't believe what I'm saying. Don't trust nothing that I'm saying. Don't trust anything that anyone tells you. Go and check it out for yourself. That's what a wise man does. So nevertheless, they issue to lawyers in each state a charter from Illinois, because Illinois was the first state that started this lawyer stuff that you had to be members of a union and you had to pay your union dues. So lawyers are nothing but members of a freaking union, man, an organization. So they issue to the lawyers in each state a charter from Illinois organization, because it started in Illinois. Then California joined in 1927, and a few reluctant states and the lawyers waited until the 1930s to join, when this treasonous act became a de facto. It became a de facto, and the people became citizens and captives and chattel property. So under this system, the lawyers could actually guarantee prejudged decision from the privileged class against the lower class. So that's what it's all about. So Esau, those of you that's not on the higher echelons to the higher class, you're nothing but white trailer trash. Let me just tell you how they think of you, man. You're nothing but trailer trash to them, man. You're just like a black slave. You can like it, understand it, believe it or not, man. That's how they think of you. So in the public, in the republic, so in the public in California, the people was actually shocked to learn that the state government has no control or jurisdiction over the Bar Association or its members. Don't believe me? Check it out. They can't control the bar or its members in the state of California. So the state does not accredit the law school or hold the bar examination. That's not held by the state. Isn't that ironic? How can it be state? How can you be a lawyer in the state and the state is not holding any of the credentials? I mean, think for a second. So they do not issue state license to lawyers. A lawyer doesn't have a license. The bar associations accredit all law schools, holds their private examinations, and select the students that they will accept into their organizations. The bar committee determines that, not the state. How many of you knew that? Don't you think that's funny? Don't you think something's wrong with that? So they issue these so-called license, which are really just certificates, to whomever they please. The bar is the only one that can actually punish or disbar a lawyer. So when you go in court and register your complaints, they don't mean a damn thing. They'll take something from you, whatever. But the state don't have any authority over these attorneys, man. Only the bar does. Only the bar. So on August the 21st, 1984, Rose Byrd, go and check it out for yourself. Don't believe Tazadaq. Chief Justice of the California State Supreme Court, another of the Bar Association Judicial Committee, stated in essence that the bar should determine the legality of all intuitives before they were actually allowed to go on the ballot. So he said not the state. The bar should have the right to determine what goes on the ballot. So this is actually contrary, if you know anything about laws, and I know most of you, I realize most of you don't. If you know anything about laws, this is contrary to both state and federal constitutions, as well as the laws of the national institutions. So by the people being sovereign, because we're born in a sovereign capacity, Most High made man sovereign over all. Understand that. That's in the book of Genesis. He gave Adam dominion over all. So, you know, the people are not a fraudulent corporate entity of lawyers, unless you just want to be. So there's a tremendous amount of power for a private union like this, you know, bar association that is actually incorporated and headquarters in Illinois to hold over the citizens of California and all of the other states. Because remember now, all of this started in the state of Illinois. So the only recourse is through this intuitive process and the vote by the people. So you, the people, is actually supposed to be essentially determining what's going on. Now, the so-called founding fathers of the United States, the so-called founding fathers formed the Constitution. And when they formed it, they was outlining the laws as to the ways the government, I'm not going to say our government, because our government is a government of Hamashiach Yahushua, but the way that the government was to be run. So Thomas Jefferson, who owned slaves, by the way, who actually had a so-called black woman that he fathered children by, and he denied. Recently, I just pulled up some evidence of how he had like a secret house, a secret room where the so-called black woman lived in when he wanted to have sex with her, and he denied it in public. Man, these people are wicked, man. But nevertheless, back to this, man. So Thomas Jefferson, in essence, you know, this proves that the plan, you know, for the people, if given the chance, can intact law and run a government as well, or even better than these blood relatives of Europe, because that's who's been running the government. Blood relatives of Europe. Just everyone that goes in office, they're blood relatives, somehow connected to Europe. Yeah, Barack Obama too. And you can like that, understand it, believe it or not. Barack Obama also. They're blood relatives from Europe. So the American people must stop thinking that lawyers are better off than they are and can do a better job than they are. You're going to have to learn to go into these colorable courts and face these charlatans on your own and stop being afraid. You got to stop thinking that a lawyer can help you out better than you could actually help yourself. See, under the common law and the laws of the Most High, the laws of America, nowhere is it expressly given for anyone to have power or right to form a corporation. It's not there. So the corporations are given birth because of ignorance. This is why corporations are formed. All these courts are corporations. Why? Because of your ignorance. Because you don't know. Because you don't study the law. Corporations are given birth because of ignorance on the part of the people, and are operating under implied consent and power, which have been usurped and otherwise stolen from who? From we, the people. Why? Because the people don't want to hear lectures like this. You want to watch a LeBron James game, you want to watch a damn football game or whatever. It's the distractions that they create for you, the damn Xbox, or you just want to go around and have sex with this sister, that sister, like your damn pinball machine. You want to hit everything that moves, but you don't want to study this and get your mind right. You don't want to live by this. You The only time you're interested in this is when you're already in trouble. When you're in trouble already, then Tazadaq, think you can help me out with this? How am I going to help you with something that you know nothing about now that you're in trouble? Where were you 6 months ago, a year ago, when I was trying to get you to learn this? You don't want to hear it then. But you wait already until you're in dishonor. So by right and by law, they have no power, authority, or jurisdiction and must be put out of business by the good people of America in their fight for freedom. So you're going to have to stop going into bitch mode and stand up like a man and stand up like a woman. The United States Constitution guarantees to every state in the Union a Republican form of government. Knowing thus, let me ask you, why you jakes keep crying for a damn Democrat? Any form of government is forbidden. Any other form of government is forbidden. A democratic government is not in accordance with the Constitution. Any other form of government is forbidden. No public officer or branch of government can be limited to a ruling class of any kind. And that's what you're doing with a democracy. That means mob rule. It means what most of the people want. That's what goes. That's not a de jure government. So all the states became atrocities and not republics. Do you understand? Do you understand? Also, the lawyers have made themselves first-class citizens, where many public offices and branches of government are open to lawyers only. Do you understand? When you look at a lot of these people in political office, what are they? They're lawyers. They're attorneys. Because a lot of these branches in government is only for attorneys only, so they could keep controlling you. Do you understand? All other people are limited to only 2 branches of government, to only certain offices in these 2 branches of government, making all people who are non-lawyers into second-class citizens and lawyers first-class citizens, because they could be in any branch of government that they desire, and they are. And you can't even call me a liar on that. So when the courts belong to the people, as the United States Constitution requires, which means to demand by authority when you're dealing with it in law. You said, Tazadaq, where is that? Show me that, prove it. Well, I will. Article 4 in the Constitution, Section 4. We the people will never rule against themselves. Is that not what you're doing? You're ruling against yourself. Go and read Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution. We, the people, will never rule against themselves. So in unconstitutional courts, which are these colorful courts that you go in every day, foreign courts with a foreign tribunes, these hoodlum centers, you should call them their thug centers. They gaffle people. They go in and they ravage. You go in and they ravage people. Now it's illegal to go and like rob someone in the street at gunpoint, right? They'll lock you up. They'll tell you that's illegal. But you go into the damn courts and they rob you every day, and you don't do nothing about it. They're robbing you every day. It's the same form of thing. They're taking fiat from you. If you don't get it, they throw you in a box. But then at the same time, they'll tell you, oh, well, it's illegal to have a debtor's prison. Isn't that what child support is? It's a debtor's prison. They're locking you up because you don't have the fiat. But they're telling you it's because you disobeyed the order of the court, so now they're finding you in contempt. So these are thugs, man. These are hoodlums. You have men dressed in black like a priest. Now, I'm going to show you how this thing, I'm going to hit you with something, man. All of this can be supported by the Bible. If you understand the Bible, you will understand everything that I'm saying. And if you understand the Bible, there's only been 4 world empires. First started with the Babylonians. They was overthrown by the medial Persian Empire, the Persians and the Medes. Then came the Greeks with Alexander. When his kingdom was actually divided, it became 4 generals that took that over. Then they was actually overthrown by the Romans. These are the 4 beasts mentioned in Daniel's and picking up in the book of Revelations. So now America is just that little horn that came out, and she's just an extension of Rome's. So it was the Roman canon society that really took the Apocrypha out of the Bible and got rid of all of the other books that they don't want you to read. So now when you study civics, And these laws that are being practiced today is Roman civics. So what you got in these courts is Roman civil law. The civil law, that's what it is. It's from Rome. So when you go into the courts, it's like you're walking into Rome. And when you go back to Rome, who are you dealing with? You're dealing with the popes. You're dealing with the Jesuits. So that's who you're dealing with in these courts. So they replace the priest with the judge. So the judge comes out in a black priestly robe. And generally he'll sit higher than you to indoctrinate fear in your mind. And they've already associated anything with black as being bad. So you automatically get nervous when you go in. So the man comes out, he's dressed in black. That are unconstitutional roles of nobility. A title of nobility is not supposed to hold office. Article 1, Section 9 and 10. They're not supposed to hold office. So they dispense a perverted ideology where the people are terrorized by members of the Black Robe Court. Who are the members of the Black Robe Court? It's an act. Case in point, they tell you, well, you violated Driver Motor Vehicle Act of Section 335, 309 of the Driver Motor Vehicle Code, the DMV. And you know it's an act. You can tell it's an act because when you go into court, they're acting. An act is going on. The judge has on his costume, just like an act. At the children's school play, they have acts, right? They say, we're going to have an act, or they call it a play. It's all an act. Judge comes out in his black priestly robe. The bailiff comes out in his uniform. He has on a gun and a badge to intimidate you. And the attorney comes out in his uniform in the Masonic bow tie or a tie and suit. The lapels on the suit is all Masonic. So you know it's an act because of the way that they're dressed. It is an act. They're acting. So if you don't know how to play the act, you're going to get bamboozled and you're going to get slam dunk. So it's all a black robe court. The lawyers and the judges in the courtroom are all part of the act. So the legislative branch of government does not have the constitutional powers to issue court orders or any kind of orders to the people. Did you know that? Go and read it. Go and study for yourself. Didn't you take government in high school? Now I want you to notice there was a time that they used to teach civics in school. Why don't they teach civics anymore? They replaced civics with government. Why? Because civics taught you the law. It taught you to study the law. That's been replaced with government. With government. Why? Because they're dumbing you down. They're dumbing you down. So the legislative branch of government does not have constitutional powers to issue court orders or any other kind of order to people as fiction courts or a court or a corporation for profit and gain cannot reach a lawful man. You understand what I'm saying? They cannot reach a living soul. So they got to create joinder with you. Only presidents and governors have the constitutional powers to grant pardons. Check it out for yourself. Need me to say that again? Only the president and governors of each state has the constitutional power to grant pardons. But lawyers and law judges, because a judge is nothing but a lawyer that got voted into office. Understand that. Lawyers and judges are unconstitutionally granting pardons with immunity for prosecutions. They don't have that power. That's unconstitutional. You know, people are not permitted to act like, or should I say citizens. If you're a citizen, you're not permitted to act like people in court because a citizen is an incompetent ward of the state. The citizen, you being a second-class citizen, is told that he or she do not know how to fill out the fancy law forms, that he is actually not trained in law, and that he does not know how the court rules and procedure work, etc., etc. Therefore, you need to hire an attorney, and if you can't afford one, the court will appoint one for you. This is unconstitutional. The lawyer system only is hearsay. Lawyers, anything a lawyer says is hearsay. It is a substitute. A lawyer is a hearsay substitute. It is a representation. A representation is not the actual truth. A representation is not real. And guess what? What a lawyer says is never under oath. They have what is known as deniable plausibility, which means you can't charge them with nothing. This is why I say anyone in the court with a claim against me must do so under oath or affirmation. That shut all of the damn lawyers down. What can they say to that? He's a title of nobility. He can't take the stand, swear an oath as a title of nobility. Do you understand? He can't do it. They're not under oath. They are not under oath. They have no access to a living soul. They only have access to the fictions, the straw man, for profit and gain, and for court gains, for the fiat. And even through only sworn testimonies and evidence can someone actually really bring a verified claim against me. Not verifiable, but verified. Anything else is a bill of attainder. Not permitted under the United States Constitution, Article 1, Section 9, and Section 10. The United States Constitution does not give anyone the right, does not give anyone, not a lawyer, the right to counsel or the right to his or her hearsay substitute. Show me that in the Constitution where you have a right to an attorney. That's something they made up, man. That's something they force on you. And then some of you contact me, Mr. Tazadaq. They said I had to take a lawyer. Well, if you read the Constitution and you know that the Constitution is the supreme law in the land, why are you not saying to them, show me that in the Constitution? Is not the Constitution the supreme law of the land? If it is, if it's not there, are they not making up their own laws? Do you have to adhere to that? It's rhetorical. I don't want you to answer it. It's rhetorical. Constitution is the supreme law of the land, man. But you think everything that they put on the table is law, when in fact it is not law. It is not law. It is public policy. What the lawyer states is hearsay. It is a substitute of what is real. The Sixth Amendment is very specific that the accused only has the right to the assistance of counsel, and this assistance of counsel can be anyone the accused choose without limitation. Knowing thus, could Tazadaq not go in as amicus curiae? For those of you that don't know, that's Latin for a friend of the court. Go and check it out. 6 Amendment. Read it for yourself. I know you Negroes don't like to read. Go and read it for yourself. You'll be surprised by what you thought you knew. You'll be astonished by what you thought you knew. Lawyers and these lawyer judges, a judge is not but a lawyer that's been voted into office, so he used to be out there prosecuting you as well, unless he was a defense attorney, lying for convicted criminals and so on and so forth. These lawyers and these judges, they created unconstitutional lawyer system, something known as a pre-trial motions and hearings, to have external extortionists, litigations, which is actually barratry. You don't know what barratry is? Go and look up in a Black Law's Fourth Dictionary, and is also in violation of the U.S. Constitution in Article 1, as this actually places you, the man, the defendant, in double jeopardy 100 times over. Defendants only have a right to a trial, not to trials. Do you understand? So why do they keep bringing you back and back and back? So when a criminal is freed on a technicality, he is freed because of a fix and a payoff. Do you understand? As a defendant can only be freed if found innocent by a jury and not by a technicality. Do you understand? So whenever a lawyer is involved in a case directly or indirectly as a litigant or assistant in counsel, all lawyer judges have to do to disqualify themselves, as they cannot be It cannot be a constitutional trial. The lawyer judge, he can't be there. When you look up what a true court of record is in Black Laws 4 for earlier, it says it does not include the person of the magistrate, which means the judge. So the black robe is not supposed to be there. He's silent. Shh, be quiet. It's just you, the living soul, and the tribunal, which is the jury, not the judge. And the judge is there. That's a bench trial. How is one man going to determine your fate? What if he's having a bad mood? What if he just got into an argument with his wife? He's having a bad day. He's going to lock you up, man. How many times you think that's happened, man? These people going off of emotions. You got one man determining your fate. This is a wicked system, man, which is why you need to learn the law. You need to learn the law, man. So when the judge does this, it also would be a violation of a conflict of interest laws. Also, it would be a violation of separation of powers and checks and balances because officers of the court are on both sides of the bench. So these same lawyer judges are awarding or approving lawyer fees. And at the same time, they're promising you a fair trial. You ever think about that? Directly and indirectly amounting to billions and billions of dollars annually, or in violations of conflicts of interest laws. So as long as there are lawyers, there will never, ever be any law. As long as there are lawyers, there will never be any law. There will never be constitution or justice in these courts. There will only be mob rule, mobocracy, rule by a mob of lawyers. That's what's going on in these courts, man. This is why you can't win. Case law is unconstitutional. Why? Why, Tazadaq? You use it all the time. Because case law is intact by the judicial branch of government. So when a lawyer or a judge instructs, directs, or gives orders to a jury, the lawyer and the judge is tampering with the jury. He's not supposed to order the friggin' jury, man. They have influences over these juries. Look at Trayvon Martin case and this bastard Zimmerman. See, he also tampers with testimonies when he orders the answer to either yes or no. He's not supposed to do that, man. Object. The judge also tampers, rigs the trials when he orders anything stricken from the record. He's not supposed to do that. He's just a referee. Or when he rules certain evidence and the truth to be insubmissible. How can he do that? He doesn't have power to do that. How are you going to get a fair trial? So this makes the trial and transcript fix and rig because the jury does not hear the real truth and all the facts. Juries are made into puppets by lawyers and by these judges. And you can like it, understand it, believe it or not. You can't even call me a liar. You ever sit on a jury? They intimidate them for educational purposes only. All lawyers are automatically in the judicial branch of government as they have the unconstitutional title of nobility, according to Article 1, Section 9 and 10. Officers of the court. So citizens have to be elected or hired to be in any branch of government, but non-lawyer citizens are limited to only 2 of the 3 branches of government. Why is lawyers open to all 3 branches of government? Lawyers are first-class citizens. They're first-class citizens and can be hired or elected by any of the 3 branches of government. Why is that? Why is that? They're running the world, man. These lawyers and these banksters. Those are your Red Childs, your Rothschilds, your Rockefellers, your Bilderbergs, your Majestic 12. So in 2 branches of government, these lawyers can be at the same time. So whenever they are hired or elected to the executive or the legislative branches, this is actually a violation of the separation of powers of checks and balances and the conflicts of interest law. Why are you not charging them with it? Why are you not charging them with it? And let me hit you with this. The district attorney and the state attorneys have taken over the grand juries from the people. The grand juries is supposed to belong to the people. So where the people are actually denied access to the grand jury when they attempt to present evidence of crimes committed in the courtrooms by the lawyers and judges. They don't want to hear it. So who do you go to? The lawyer, violates your rights. You're supposed to go before a grand jury. They're not allowing the people to do that anymore. So the United States Constitution is the supreme law of the land. It's the supreme law of the land, the supreme fundamental law of the land. And it cannot be ambiguous as to be interpreted, or it would actually be a worthless piece of paper. As recently, a few years ago, President Bush declared it to be a worthless piece of paper because he knows what's going on. You just don't know what's going on. And we would actually have millions of interpretations, unconstitutional amendments like you have. So instead of a few, you have thousands and thousands of statutes that they created. This is why all judges and public servants are sworn to support the Constitution, not to interpret it. A judge and all public servants are not supposed to be interpreting the Constitution, which is why they created these military tribunals. When you go into most courts, the judge is not under oath. Why are you going into a court for educational purposes if the judge is not under oath? See, under international orders, all lawyers, whether they've actually left law school yesterday or 50 years ago, are exactly the same under international law. All lawyers have to file the same motion and follow the same procedures and using the same unconstitutional law system. All of them. So in probate, the lawyers place themselves in everyone's will and estate. Did you know that? Did you know that? They place themselves in everyone's will and estate. So when there are minor children as heirs, the lawyers, judges appoint a lawyer, a damn child molester, for each child at the time the lawyer fees exceeds the total amount of the estate. How many of you knew that? So an outrageous amount of tax money is directed and indirectly stolen by lawyers. Money that is actually budgeted to county boards, to schools, boards, and other local federal agencies eventually finds its way into the pockets of the lawyers. All of these agencies are tricked and forced into external extortions and litigations by these wicked lawyers. So any of you that's going into these courts, if you still think that you want a lawyer, if you still think that you might be interested in a lawyer, then you might want to think again. You might want to think again whether or not you should actually get a lawyer or whether you should hire a lawyer, an attorney. You might want to think again and again and again, because the whole system is corrupt. Man. Not only is it corrupt, it's a wicked judicial system. So, I mean, this is why you really got to study some law. You got to know some law. It's imperative that you know some law today, because if you don't know any, you're gonna get caught up. Like many people that come to me, you're gonna wish, damn, I wish I had listened to Tazadaq. And people often come when it's too late. You come when it's too late. You don't know how to deal with debts. You know what I mean? You don't know how to deal with debts and so on and so forth. And a debt collector calls you. You don't know how to handle the situation. You go into a panic. How many of you are getting phone calls by harassing bill collectors and so on and so forth, and you don't know how to deal with that particular situation? And they're using automatic dialers to call you. This is why you should attend my seminars. I go over this stuff extensively in the seminars. But most of you don't have time for that. You just want a quick fix. You don't want to learn this stuff, but you got to learn this stuff yourself. You want to know this yourself. You want to learn this and know this yourself. Just like you know how to ride a bike. You need to know this. Like memorizing something is not the same as knowing it. When you memorize something, you can forget it, but when you know it, you don't forget it. Just like riding a bike, you learn how to ride a bike. You don't memorize it, because you might have learned how to ride a bike when you're 6. You could be like 60 years old. You still know how to ride that bike because you learned it. You experienced it. You did it again, and again. So let me tell you this. If you're getting, I'm gonna say this. If you're getting harassed by bill collectors, right? If you're getting harassed by a debt collection agency, do you know the difference between a debt collecting agency and a credit collection agency? Those are two different animals. One usually works for the original creditor that you borrowed or alleged money from, and the other is just some lawyer that opened up a debt collection agency, and he bought your information from the operation or the organization that has actually already written the debt off as a tax write-off, where they paid the 2% on it, and that debt is supposed to be closed, and you don't owe anything else on it. But this debt collection agency comes along, he buys the information, then he comes after you and he lies to you and tells you that he works for the organization. But that's illegal. How many of you knew it was illegal for someone to call you on a phone that's actually an automatic dialer? And what I mean by that is, have you ever actually been called by a debt collection agency, and they call you from one number? You got afraid, you went into bitch mode, you blocked the number. You didn't talk to him. You didn't tell him not to call me anymore. You didn't write him. You didn't send him a notice and say, don't contact me anymore unless it's actually by phone. You didn't research the debt. You see if the debt was already closed out. Because if the original creditor has closed out the debt, they're not supposed to contact you anymore. It's illegal to collect on that debt for educational purposes only. And for each time that they're trying to collect on that debt, you could sue them for that. $1,000 for each offense. If they're calling you over the phone, $500 for each offense. If they already been notified of it over the phone, it's $1,500 for each offense. Yeah, and you could download this information, man, from the Fear Debt Practice app. You can download that. It's free information to download. But you need to learn this to be able to defend yourself. And if any of this stuff is on your credit, you could contact the 3 credit bureaus and say, hey, this is not supposed to be on my credit report. I want it removed. And your credit score is going to go up about 20 points each time. Very simple. You don't know how to do it? I'll be more than welcome to help you out with that for a donation for my time and energy. A workman is worthy of his hire. So, so some of the things I'm going to say to you before I close this out, if you're being harassed by a debt collector, contact them. Tell them don't contact you ever again by phone for educational purposes only. You want to send this in the mail. You can tell them over the phone verbally, but they could deny it. So, and for educational purposes, you want to record the phone calls just like they're recording the phone calls. So it may be admissible in court unless you're in a state that requires both parties to agree with the phone call being recorded. So you're going to write them and say, don't contact me anymore to try and collect on this debt. And so unless it's by mail. And if they do contact you, you're going to be researching and you're going to find out whether that alleged debt has been closed off by the original creditor. Within the first 6 months, all debts are usually closed off. And if it's closed off, it becomes illegal for anyone to collect on that debt thereafter. So you want to send them a debt validation letter. And if they contact you after that, if the debt has been written off, you can literally sue them. Don't know how? Contact me. I can help you out with that. So when they contact you, I'm going to give you this and I'm going to leave. By the way, let me get some likes in the room, thumbs up, like this video, share this video on Facebook and on YouTube. Check this out. These are the things you're going to ask for. Watch this, watch this. And this is going to make you get rid of all debt collectors for good. Once and for all, and your credit score is going to improve. But I'll hit you with something. You need to become a secure party creditor. What are you waiting for? Because you need to be in proper status to effectively do any of this. So now I want you to go to Google on the internet and find a simple document called, and I should be charging for this, rightly so, called a request for production of documents. And you will need to fill it out and request that if you're going to take this to court to sue them, that the plaintiff produce, whoever's bringing a complaint against you, claiming that you owe alleged debt, produce the supposed proof that the debt is against you, right? They have to prove that. The burden of proof is always on the plaintiff, right? We're in agreement? If you know the law, you should be in agreement. So, in other words, you legally say to this debt collector, if you are accusing me of owing you money, which is really fiat, we know that there's no real money, then prove it. That's what you're saying by this. So now, if you don't feel comfortable creating your own request for production, contact Tazadaq. I'll be more than happy to do it for you. Quid pro quo. That's Latin. Something for something. Can't get something for nothing. Don't work like that in this world. Workman is worthy of his hire. Can't overemphasize that. So if you decide to make your own, be sure that the request for production of documents asks the plaintiff for the following things. Number one, a copy of the original contract with your signature on it. If they don't have that, why are you worried about paying anything? If there's no contract, there is no case. And it has to be your original signature. Tazadaq, what about I signed it up online? Listen, fool. If someone signed it up online, can they prove, and I'm not telling you to be a criminal, but for educational purposes only. If someone signed for a credit card online in your name, can they prove that that was you? No, law. The burden of proof is on the plaintiff. You're going to ask them for a copy of the original contract with your wet ink signature on it, which means your fingerprint should be on it also. Understand that. You're going to ask for any assignment and chain of title to prove that the plaintiff is the real party of interest. In other words, they need to prove that they was the original alleged lender. And you're going to ask for a sworn affidavit. Why? Because if they take a false oath, you could get them for perjury. They could be locked up for perjury. So you're going to ask for a sworn affidavit from any employee of the original creditor who has first-hand knowledge of the facts that states they have sold, number one, has sold the alleged debt to this person that's claiming that they own the debt or that they work for the original creditor and have not taken any tax write-offs against the debt. Because if they taken tax write-offs against the debt or the debt's been paid off, they can't collect on it. It becomes illegal to collect on it. So instead of them suing you, you're going to sue them for educational purposes only. So you're going to ask if the debt collector cannot prove that they are the real party of interest, then they have no business suing you. Understand that. You sue them. Do you understand? So in law, we have these principles called standing. Standing. Now, I'm not sure if any of you have actually heard of what standing is. As an example, if John owes Bob money, Bob sued John for the money. So, I mean, that's what standing is. So, about what you say? Well, what about, say, if there was a Mary? Can Mary sue John? Exactly. Anyone can sue anyone if you have standing. So you got to have standing for anything to be sufficient in court. So if they can't prove that you are actually this alleged person that the money was loaned to, they have no standing. You understand? So in order for you to take them to court, you have to have standing. There has to be some cause of action. They have to actually have already taken an alleged loan that was already paid off by the original creditor, and now they're still coming at you, that's illegal. You can sue them for that, for educational purposes. Do you understand? So you got to have standing. So I don't know. I'm pretty sure there's a large number of people out there that owe so-called credit card bills or whatever kind of bill it may be. But if such the case may be, and you have to go into court, then you want to make sure you have proper standing. You don't want to go there and make a fool of yourself. You don't want to go there and not know how to properly stand as a man or as a woman. You want to go in and profile your persona. You understand what I'm saying? So this is how you deal with these debt collectors. Now, when you go into court, I'm gonna give you this. I know I said I was gonna end it. I'm gonna give you a little bit more here. So I'm gonna give you this, and then I'm gonna say shalom. Have a nice day. So the next thing I wanted to say is that there are 5 required elements of a lawsuit. If you're going to sue these alleged debt collectors, if they're really not the original creditors, you can in fact sue them if the debt has actually been written off. So there are 5 very important elements that must exist before you could actually file a federal court lawsuit, because these debt collectors, they're violating federal laws if they're coming after you and the debt has actually already been paid off for educational purposes. So I'm going to give you a brief summary, and then I'm going to bring this thing to a close, of the things that you should consider before filing a case in federal court. So in this summary is not to be considered as a final word. You can check it out for yourself, whatever, but it works for me every time. But before continuing, you must understand that even if you have met all 5 elements, there's always possibilities that you may not win if you don't know how to handle yourself in court, which is why I always emphasize get my books, get a good book on, contract law and so on and so forth, because you need to know how to stand effectively as a man, and proper your persona. So the 5 required elements of a lawsuit is 1, there has to be a real injury or a wrong done to a man or a woman. There has to be jurisdiction. That's the second thing. There has to be a statute of limitation, because these are statutory courts. So there has to be a statute of limitation. Has the statute of limitation expired? There has to be immunity. There has to be facts and evidence. And there has to be those 5 elements. And I'm going to address those 5 real quickly. And then I'm going to, because I've been already talking for over an hour. You got a lot of information if you go back and watch this about 6 times, 7 times. Watch it 7 times so it could be embedded into your subconscious mind. Now, let's deal with number 1, real injury or wrong. Cases brought by persons without counsel typically fall into 2 categories: civil rights and violations of tort claims. So a civil right or cases involve a claim seeking redress for the violations of a person's constitutional right. So this type of claim is often brought under the federal statute 42 USC 1983. Dolly, you're very familiar with that. So under this law, a person who acts under the color state law to violate another constitutional right may be liable for damages. Do you understand? Now, what is a tort? It talks out you talking all this law stuff. I don't know what a damn tort is. And let me guess, you're not going to take the time to go and look it up. A tort is actually defined as a private or a civil wrong or an injury. That's all a tort is: a private or civil wrong or injury. It is distinguished from criminal law because it is an injury against an individual and not against a state or a city or a county or a state government. So if a person ran, I'm speaking in common parlance right now when I'm using the word person. Understand that. I'm not talking about a corporation. So if a person ran a stoplight and hit your car, the state would ticket the driver for running the stoplight, but it would not be able to sue the driver for the injury received by the victim of the car, of the car. Do you understand? So that is considered a private wrong or injury, and it is actually the right of the victim to file a civil suit against the driver seeking damages for the injury received. Do you understand? So there are three types of torts. There's intentional, there's negligence, and there's strict liability. You need to understand this stuff. And I hope you're writing this down unless you're going to watch this video 10 times. You cannot sue someone for educational purposes only. And by the way, I'm not a lawyer. I never want to be a dirty, stinking lawyer. I'm just an agreed man giving you right knowledge. This is not legal advice. Don't mistake it as legal advice. So you cannot sue someone for just because you're angry with them. That's irrational. You have to have been injured in some way. You can bring a tort action in federal court if a violation of federal law has occurred. So the next thing that I mentioned was jurisdiction. Some of you know what it is. Some of you think you know what it is. But what is it? Jurisdiction can be used interchangeably with authority. Jurisdiction is the authority given a court to hear and decide certain cases. So for a court to render a valid judgment, it must have both jurisdiction over the subject matter of the controversy and jurisdiction over the person or all of the people involved. So the court system is described more fully in some of my other videos. I really don't want to go in depth into that. So that's what jurisdiction is. Now, the case must deal with a federal question of law, or the parties to the case must be residents of different states, which is actually known as the diversity of citizenship, in order for it to be a federal matter. You understand? So, and the monetary amount in the controversy must exceed $75,000 if you're looking to bring this into federal court. Understand that. So federal courts enforce federal laws. So that is the United States Constitution and federal statutes intact by Congress. State courts enforce state laws. Sometimes they overlap, such as in the diversity clause. So this is why it is important that, you know, if you don't seek legal counsel, that you know the law, you know the contract, which is the law. Now, the third thing that I mentioned was the statute of limitation. Just bear with me a little more. I'm about done. A statute of limitation is part of the statutes that set a particular period of time with each suit, the time limit in which each suit can be filed. If it exceeds the statute of limitation, you can no longer be sued, or the suit can't be filed. It begins to run when the injury or the right of that person has been violated. Some examples I could give you is, number one, a car accident or the other personal injury. Statute of limitation is generally 2 years. Civil rights violation, statute of limitation is generally 2 years. A contract dispute, that's generally 6 years. So if you're dealing with a credit card debt or something like that, that's generally 6 years for the statute of limitation. Now, can't you see how wicked this system is? They give you 6 years for a damn contract, like a credit card or something. But if your civil rights has been violated, only 2 years. If someone's been injured in a car accident, only 2 years. So for the legitimate injuries, they're only giving you 2 years, but they give you 6 for a damn contract. So medical malpractice is typically 2.5 years. So the next thing that I mentioned was immunity. And so immunity prohibits you from suing a person who is performing his or her duties as prescribed by law. This is why, for educational purposes, when I tell you, if you're going to sue an attorney, you go after the man. You don't sue the position. You don't sue the judge. You find out what his name is. His name John Doe? You better sue John Doe. You don't sue for educational purposes only the IRS agent. You sue Peggy Jones. You find the name and you don't sue the position. You sue them as a man or as a woman. Do you understand? Otherwise, they're protected by immunity. So when a judge decides a case, he is immune from suit because he's performing his duties directed by the law. Guess what? They're generally not even carrying out the law. So how do you get to him? You sue the man for educational purposes. However, if a judge has operated his car illegally and caused you to be harmed, you can sue him for damages because driving his car does not fall under the duties of being a judge. Do you understand? Do you understand? So most government employees are immune from suits, which is why I tell you, sue the man, sue the woman for educational purposes only. Don't go after the organization because they're protected by immunity. They have a bond against them. So if you sue them, the bond's going to protect them. So you're not going to really damage him. You got to go after the man or the woman, which is why when you get your IRS document, it's a computer-generated copy. There is no real signature. No one wants to be sued. No one wants to assume responsibility. Do you understand? But you got to find out who the man is, who the woman is, and if you sue them, hey, I guarantee a lot of your problems are going to start to go away. All judges and lawyers are subject to a code of conduct. Do they follow it? I'm going to let you answer that. I'm not going to answer that. The next thing that I mentioned was facts and evidence. I'm going to give you this, and then I'm done. I've been talking like an hour and 26 minutes. So this is the last thing that you need for the 5 elements of a lawsuit: facts and evidence. You cannot sue someone because you believe or you have a feeling the person has actually violated your rights. You must have facts to support your lawsuits, such as the time, the place of the incident, witnesses who actually observed the behavior, and the actual articles of evidence, such as a gun or a police report or other documentary evidence. You have to have this stuff in order to win your case. The burden of proof is on the plaintiff. I say it all the time. The burden of proof is on the plaintiff. If you're bringing a lawsuit, you are the plaintiff, so you have to prove it. The burden of proof is on the plaintiff to win the case. And without factual evidence, the case is not going to be won. Understand that. So it is very essentially important that you have all 5 required elements before you consider filing against anyone, any kind of other entity. And most of you don't do this. You try to do it, but most of you don't do it. You don't have the facts and evidence. So after all of these elements are met, you must still follow the procedure set forth for your particular court that you will actually file your case in. And, you can learn more about that at my seminars. So, I will discuss this at the seminar if actually someone wants to go over it. So if your case needs to be filed in any other court, you should contact the court clerk's office of that court for the information regarding the local rules and procedure for filing your particular case. I tell people that all of the time. Get the civil rules and procedures of that particular case so you can make sure that you're actually filing the information right. Because oftentimes what happens, if you don't follow the civil rules and procedures of the court, they don't accept your information. They ignore it. And so when you get it in there, you got to move the court. It is your responsibility to move the court. And so with that, I'm going to bring this to an end. I've been talking to you for like an hour, 30 minutes, 29 minutes, 30 seconds. So I thank everyone for listening. Got a lot of information from this. Like the video, share the video. It's posted on both Facebook and YouTube. So share the video with your friends and families. Somebody that you know that's actually going through any kind of debt situation. Someone that you know that's actually using an attorney. Might want to tell them to get rid of that attorney that's going to cause, for educational purposes, is going to cause them more of an injury than good. So you don't want to hire an attorney according to corpus juris secundum. An attorney's first obligation is to the court, to the public, and not to the client. This corpus juris secundum, volume 7, section 4. Go and check it out for yourself. So I'll leave you just as I greeted you through the spirit of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shah. Gonna say Shalom, Kwam Yasha Allah, Korat Tazadaq is out. Shalom.